our fallen warriors on certain days like Memorial Day or 4th of July, but each and every day that we wake up, because it is a privilege to live in this country. And it's because of people like you who have fought, and some of your friends who have died for that cause of freedom. And we all ought to take that seriously, particularly when there's less than 1% of our nation that volunteers for that great responsibility. So as your member of Congress, I feel it's my duty and my responsibility to provide you with the best service and representation I can possibly provide. So there are certain legislative things that I believe in, that I have been asked to work on, and I will, and I have. But there's other things that I will continue to do too. Beyond co-sponsoring a full-service VA, which we all know we need, we all know that members of Congress from New Hampshire have fought for. We will continue to do everything we can to make that a reality here in New Hampshire. And I know it's been an uphill battle for years. But the one thing that I think we have that other members have not had is we've got a very, very large freshman class. 87 Republicans and 9 Democrats who stick together. And when we ask of one another to work on a particular issue, to improve our state or our district, we take that request seriously. And I will put the power of not just a co-sponsorship, but the power of this freshman class behind this issue and say it is time for New Hampshire to join the rest of the country in having a full-service VA. I was fortunate to be the mayor of Manchester when the New England Gold Star Mothers Association chose Manchester as the location for its statue. And I was blessed to be at the ceremony a couple of months ago. And that allowed me to co-sponsor a piece of legislation with a guy from New Jersey, John Runyon, who many of you may know as a NFL star from the Philadelphia Eagles. We have joined together in co-sponsoring the Gold Star Mothers National Monument to be placed in Washington, because it's one of the only monuments that has not been supported and honored in our country. And we've got to remember those who lost their sons. And we've got to make sure that it's not just here in Manchester, New Hampshire on behalf of New England, but everywhere in the country, that people honor and respect what mothers have gone through in the service of our country. And there are things like the deployment of the cycle support that actually passed the House and the Senate that our entire delegation worked for on behalf of returning soldiers. Something that is very critical, something that you may not have had, but our soldiers today do have. And it's because politics is put aside and policy starts to run the day. There's a piece of legislation that Phil Gingrey, a member of Congress, has sponsored that makes sure that any veterans legislation has an up or down vote. It's not attached to anything else. It's not attached to controversial issues. It's not attached to things that are tantamount to moving the country forward, because military and veterans issues end up being used as a political football. So he sponsored a piece of legislation that says when we have veterans issues, they don't get attached to something, they get a vote, up or down vote, by themselves. Get those things off the table, get them voted on, so no party, nobody can use them for political purposes. It's a way of, I think, honoring and respecting the things that you deserve, the things that you fought for. And I think it's in that vein that this Congress can be successful in finally delivering on some of the promises that have been made over the years. And then finally, I want to say, we have a very aggressive constituent service program. A friend to this room, Dave Tilley, who's worked for many members of Congress, is a good friend of mine, has joined our team, and we want to be aggressive in reaching out to you. So we're going to go to your posts, if you'd like us to make sure that if there's any particular issue that you need us to work on, whether it's a large issue or an individual issue, we're going to do it. One of the things that we're engaging now is a outreach and a jobs program for the returning soldiers, the 800 returning soldiers who are going to return to New Hampshire this fall. And we've started up meetings to make sure that we are not replicating or duplicating services, but augmenting and enhancing the services that are offered to our returning soldiers. We want to be part of the solution. We want to be part of that family environment when a soldier comes home, that they're not only welcome, but they can integrate back into their local communities and our society and do what every American wants to do: find a job, provide for their family, and do it with dignity and respect and honor. So we are making sure that we focus on demanding that employers in this state think of veterans first when they come home about employment decisions. So this week we already started meeting with large companies like Coca-Cola, who has already committed to me that they will start hiring more veterans in the state of New Hampshire. We have an obligation to remind each and every resident that you matter, and that we matter because of what you've accomplished and what you've sacrificed. And I feel my part and my role as your representative is not just to file legislation, but fight for those pieces of legislation. Not just to show up at events, but to make sure that people in New Hampshire understand that they have a responsibility that is our direct responsibility to ensure that anyone who has served this nation doesn't have to beg, doesn't have to fight, doesn't have to demean themselves in order to receive the benefits they've earned over time. And I hope that I can be that voice for you. I'm willing to make sure that I do everything I possibly can to ensure that not just you, but every returning soldier has a better and higher quality of life. And I look forward to this next 2 years working with you and serving with you. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.